Are you a burnt out overachiever buried in responsibilities? Do you miss laughing with your friends, just laughing from the gut? Do you feel like life's passing you by? If you've been wishing for some kind of shift, you're in the right place. Welcome to 52 Weeks of Hope, the show where we take you off the hamster wheel by ditching the to do list for the to don't list. This is where you get to learn how to make that lonely ache vanish, learn self compassion techniques, and to give yourself grace. I'm Lauren Abrams, and I get to help you feel that magic again since going through my own dark night of the soul so you can learn from my experience and the mentors and experts I meet along the way. And today we're talking to author, speaker, and intuitive advisor Lynn Robinson. Do you ever wish that life came with instruction manuals? Should you even go after your big vision? When's the best time to go after it? Whether you should stay in your relationship or not? Is this the time for your career shift? You've got these intuitive abilities and you get to learn right now how to use them. Lynn's a sought after motivational speaker. She's written 7 books on accessing your intuition and makes it her mission to teach you how to develop your abilities so you can live and enjoy your best life. Know these answers so you can enhance your life and the life of others. Welcome to 52 Weeks of Hope, Lynn.
I hear that introduction and I go, I want to talk to her.
Yeah, I wanna know. Well, and I
Yeah.
love this topic so much. I think
Yeah.
it's hardest when we're the own subject matter. Like, I could
Oh, totally.
I could, like, know, "Oh, like, I'm very intuitive for others."
Yes. I will say the same thing about myself. So that's why I'm saying I want to talk to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I absolutely think we're all hardwired with intuition. So, all joking aside, I do think we have access to it. I think it's a deep inner wisdom. And we've forgotten how to listen to it and how the information comes to us. But we all have that wisdom within, especially in these trying times when so many of us feel stuck and we're trying to figure out next steps. It's an invaluable skill to have.
It is, and people are like, "Well, wait, how do I do that? I wanna do that, and how did you get started?" So that's 3 really huge questions.
Right off the bat. Oh
Yeah,
my
there you go.
gosh, yeah. But I love giving people practical information about how to trust it because it is invaluable. We all get it in different ways. In a weird way, it's learning a language, but it's unique to you. So well, I'll start by just defining what it is. I mean, that probably the quickest definition is simply quick and ready insight. But I think of it as sort of divine wisdom that we're all hardwired with it. We all have that wisdom from our soul that's guiding us, and I think a lot of people are under the impression that it's that, a booming voice. Lauren, here's what you're meant to do. Here's your next step, or here's your mission in life, should you choose to accept it, from like that old television show that oh God, I'm really dating myself already here. But it was like the guy got this call and said, here's your mission. So, anyway, it doesn't come that way. It comes as it might be an aha moment. It might be a still quiet inner voice. It's a whisper. Sometimes we just have synchronicities and coincidences that begin to happen that kind of guide us in the right direction. Sometimes it's a dream. I often find when I'm asking my own intuition for guidance, the synchronicities and the coincidences often show up, like I'm guided to the right conversation, or maybe to listen to this podcast, or to read a book, or it's like the answers can come from other people too. But it starts to come when you're going, what's my intuition saying about this decision or this issue? So I think we can allow ourselves to be open to that guidance.
Yeah, so do I just say to the universe, "Okay, please." Oh, every day I say, "I have an open heart and an open mind." That's part of my and if I'm on a deadline, I'll be like, "Okay, universe, you need to be a little blatant here. I'm not getting it."
I like that you have a conversation with the universe because that's what I do too. It's like, can you turn
Yeah,
up the volume on that still
yeah,
quiet inner voice a little bit here? I'm not
right.
hearing you. Yeah.
And then I start ducking as if I'm gonna get hit by lightning or something if I ask it blatant, like,
Here
I'm
comes the
like,
blazing
"Yeah,
intuition. No.
yeah, yeah." Like, I don't know, it's just old
Yeah,
idea.
but yes, but I think you're on the right track of asking for guidance about something. I mean, I like asking intuition empowering questions. So, a disempowering question examples are, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not making any
Mhm.
money? Why can't I find the right relationship? It's almost like the questions themselves make you feel depressed.
Yeah.
But asking for a question, or requesting information, like, what can I do to attract a wonderful partner? Or what can I do to create more abundance right now? And as we've already said, the answer doesn't always come right away. But I usually find when I request information that sometime within the next day or two, there will be some answer in some form. Yeah.
So how do you feel about affirmations?
Oh, I love them.
Okay. Okay.
I do. They've really gotten me through trying times. I know they sound so simplistic, but and I think you have to find the one that works for you because my favorite ones are maybe a statement kind of may all of this unfold with ease and grace. So it's like kind of the expectation that it's not going to be a lot of drama, that there's support and protection around me. So that's one favorite affirmation. I'll figure this out because I think a lot of times when we're stuck, we're just going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. But simply saying, I'll figure this
Uh-huh.
out, that's a great one. So those are my two favorites. But, I think you have to find the one that really fits for you. And there's certainly lots of ideas about affirmations, but on the internet. But I find that they're important, maybe not for the obvious way, but because I think an affirmation or a positive mindset invites intuition. So if you're constantly saying to yourself, I'm unlucky, or I don't know what to do, or I'm stuck, or good things never come my way, it's almost like you're blocking the intuition. I probably all of us have had a good friend who's really having a difficult time, and maybe we've got great advice or somebody we want to introduce her to or an idea, and they're going, "No, I'm this is just not working for me." And so it's sort of like that with intuition. I think that when we're thinking really negatively, we often block that intuitive guidance that's there to help us out. So I like affirmations for that reason alone.
Yeah, just to be open, and I affirm every day the universe is expansive, and just try to
Yeah,
stay as open as possible
right.
and to stay in love and light, which it's hard right now sometimes. I guess even saying it's hard is not saying,
I know we
but
catch ourselves, don't we? I
yeah,
shouldn't
yeah.
say it's hard.
I know,
Whoops,
I
what a negative
know.
thought.
Right, right, right.
No, I do the same thing. I do the same thing. But you're again, good concept because that universe has our back, that the universe is
Yeah.
supporting us even during the difficult times. I mean, we never escape in this life without having something that's a little discouraging, whether a job loss or a relationship ending or a health crisis. So the universe has my back. The universe wants me to, is supporting me. Those are great affirmations and certainly belief system to have.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and a friend of mine that passed away, she wanted all of us to remind others the future is friendly. That was her
Oh,
thing. Yeah,
I love
she
that.
yeah, right. And
Yeah.
that she always said the future is friendly,
I like
and
that. I may
she
have to
wanted
write that one down.
yeah, right. I know she was so great, and she's like remind pass that on. So I'm doing that.
I'm writing that one down. The future
Yeah,
is friendly. I like that. It's interesting, Lauren, because I think what a lot of people do is they create worst case scenarios and they're like, I call it what if down. What if this doesn't work? What if the relationship ends? What if I get sicker? What if I don't make any money? When it's in a way, you're saying the future isn't friendly in doing all of that. So I try to be conscious of what's the best case scenario? What if this does work out? What if I do get better? What if abundance is coming? So along the lines of the future is friendly, I love that. But I think it's because I mean, if you think of law of attraction, which I sometimes think is a little bit oversimplified, but we what we focus on expands. So if you think about the future as a friendly place, yeah, it's like you're anticipating that good things are coming your way. And even saying that to yourself, like good opportunities are coming my way. I'm going to stay open. The universe has my back. The future is friendly. We've just come up with some great affirmations here.
yeah, we did. Okay, so you said you think the law of attraction is a little simplified. Can you explain and what is a better way?
Well, I think the way it's presented a lot is think positive thoughts and positive things will happen to you. I think it's a little more complex than that. I mean, I certainly try to apply it. I have this technique that I love to use, a la law of attraction. It's got three steps to it. One is to write down what you would like to happen. And I try to keep it pretty general that I've got freedom, I've got flexibility, I've got abundance, I've got wonderful friends and support around me. I mean, maybe just as general as that and put in any specifics you'd like, not how it's going to happen, but more what you want in the next year or two. And then what I do every day is I spend some time visualizing it. And what my spirit guides have told me is that when we do that, when we focus on the what we want, we imagine it as if it's already happened, that we begin to draw those circumstances to ourselves. Again, through all of those ways we've talked about synchronicities, coincidences, aha moments. What I do specifically is I set my alarm clock for 4 minutes. I close my eyes and I talk to myself as if I have what I want. Or that it's like, oh, I'm so grateful for all the wonderful clients coming to me for intuitive readings. My books are really selling great. I love these people that I'm working with. Thank you for my health. I mean, I'll just say it in that way, just feel the energy of it. And then what I do as a third step is when I open my eyes, I just say, what could I do today to move in this direction? Because I think sometimes we just expect things will happen to us. And sometimes they do.
Right.
But I do think that sometimes law of attraction is missing the action piece to, and it doesn't have to be something big like write a book. It could be or post something on my social media, introduce myself to a stranger, make a phone call I feel a little scared to make. It's read a book that might be uplifting. I mean, it's just putting the energy out towards what it is that you want. But again, the ones that feel intuitively guided, if they feel uplifting or exciting or you're curious about them, those are the ones that intuition is guiding you towards. So that's my very favorite technique. I think it is my intuitive business plan. Because when I first started my business, before I started my business, I used to be the operations manager of a software company in Boston. I mean, talk about a weird segue from doing that to doing intuitive readings.
Yeah.
But I use this technique. I mean, every day I would say, I have a wonderful, thriving intuitive reading business. I'm teaching seminars all over the world. My books are being published in multiple languages. I would just
Right.
talk to myself that way. And why I tell people don't try to figure out how any of this is going to
Right.
happen
Right.
is that my business actually started by sitting down next to a reporter at a friend's funeral. I didn't know she was a reporter. I just felt guided to sit next to this woman. She was a total stranger. And at the end of my friend's service, she and I started small talk. And she said, well, what do you do for a living? And I was the operations manager of a software company, but I found myself wanting to tell her, I was like, well, I'm thinking about starting this business doing intuitive readings. And I just am really excited about that. And she was fortunately, because I was like, oh my gosh, what are you saying to this strange woman? She was really interested and she asked for a reading. And so a week later, I was like, I gave her a reading and she's like, wow, this was so helpful to me. Did you know that I was a reporter for the Boston Globe? And I said, no, I'm glad you didn't tell me that beforehand. I would have been nervous. But she ended up writing an article about me. It was called Psychic Psychology. And that article ended up attracting over 500 people over the next several months. So I mean, it was amazing. I mean, that's what, when you do that technique, that's what I find that kind of stuff happens. Weird miracles or being in the right place at the right time. So that was what launched my business, which was 35 years ago, amazingly enough. I still
7
feel
books,
old saying that.
35 years. Yeah, no, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
Those
I
are the
know.
great stories, though. Those
Yeah, yeah.
really are. And I love your number 3, "What could I do today to move it?" Because God doesn't drive parked cars is what I was told. I can't sit in the corner wishing and wishing,
Yeah,
"I want this, I want"
right,
you've got even any steps in the direction
right.
create energy.
Yeah.
And even, no matter what it is, it's yeah, like putting energy towards it is you wanna do, like, the universe rises to meet you. I don't know how or why, like you said.
Yeah. The analogy I like to use is I think intuition is very much like our inner GPS. And if you program the one on your car or your phone, it doesn't really start giving you directions about your next steps until you put the foot on the accelerator. So that's when the information, so like you're taking the steps, taking some action, you're moving forward. And that's when the information comes in about go in this direction. So I think it's amazing how the universe works, but it really does have our back. It wants us to succeed. I tell people one of the ways, very simply, to listen to their intuition is if a decision feels draining, boring, heavy, enervating, that's your intuition saying that's not the best next step for you. But if you feel anywhere between excited, curious to mildly interested, wildly excited, that's your intuition saying go in that direction. And the caveat I will say is that almost everybody tells me that they get scared trusting their intuition because it usually moves them out of their comfort zone. End a relationship or begin a relationship or end a job or begin a job or do something new, that it always feels a little bit scary. And so that anxiety or that fear is not your intuition saying no. It's just a normal, that's what happens when you're doing, to all of us when you do something
Yeah.
new. So I think that's the biggest thing that I hear when I'm doing intuitive readings. It's like, well, I think I want to do this, but, and then I hear a lot of people going, oh, I don't have the confidence, or I don't have the money, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. And it's fear speaking. So take steps, baby steps in the direction of your dreams. And the universe takes a lot of steps to meet you.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. If the idea of it fills you with joy,
Yeah.
that's it. And I was told God didn't put I used to spin to this really motivational person. I mean, Oprah took her on the road. Well, you're a
Oh,
motivational
cool.
speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she'd be like, God didn't put that dream in your head for no reason. Like,
Absolutely.
anyway, and then she'd go on this whole
Yeah.
thing and,
And
uh, yeah.
yeah, I get that. And I say that to a lot of people. It's because they say, well, it's like I have this big dream, but, and I say the exact same thing. God, universe, your spirit, whatever, did not put that in your heart or in your mind and say, no, I'm not giving you anything to help you get it. It's there because you're meant to act on it. I call those things intuitive nudges. If they keep coming back, oh, I'd like to do this. Oh, I've always thought about doing that. If they keep coming back to you, that's yours to act on. A lot of times people ask me about what's my mission or what's my purpose. And to me, it's not like a specific job, like Lauren, you're supposed to do podcasts or something. It's not that. It's more you're doing the thing that you like to do, but it's stepping into the bigger dream of it. It's like, how can I help others with this? How can I expand this? How can I have courage and do this in an even bigger way? And that's your mission. It's like really stepping into the energy of your own power. But I like what that Oprah person said. I totally
Yeah, yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Angela Manuel Davis, yeah. So, somebody who's afraid though, how do you help them walk through that fear?
Good question. Part of it is paying attention to what you say to yourself. Because if you are saying things like, I can't, or I'm too scared, or it's not going to work, you're going to have to find a way to shift that thinking a little bit and even some small way. But I also tell people take small steps. I mean, yeah, you may be getting nudged towards changing your job, for example. But you've got a mortgage, you've got kids going to school, you're paying off your own school bills. Who knows what's going on? That feels way too scary and not practical. But how could you take steps towards it? Well, you could hire a coach, you could rewrite your resume, you could start asking. It's like you're putting the energy out towards what you want. And that tends to lessen the fear a little bit, those baby steps. And I don't want to call them baby steps because I'm underestimating them. Often I've taken the baby steps and then the opportunity or the synchronicity starts showing up. So again, the future is a friendly place. It wants to meet you. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Just taking the any steps,
Yeah.
really. Like, it
Yeah.
does create energy. So how did you start this? I mean, here you are, you're at a funeral, you end up but what
I
gave you the
know.
idea to even do this, especially 35 years ago?
I know.
The world
Yeah, I
was
was
place
definitely
was
one of the
big.
first. Yeah. Yeah. I was one of those I was in that job at the manager of that IT company and I just kept thinking this is not what I want to be when I grow up. And I was always interested in things having to do with personal growth, counseling and spirituality and intuition. So I started taking a bunch of classes, especially about intuition. And every time we had like one of those partner exercises where you're supposed to tune into your partner and get something, everybody's going, "How did you know that about me?" So I started, and then I went to see a coach, and I got a bunch of like aptitude tests, and it was interesting because she said you've got a lot of multiple aptitudes, which she said sometimes people just have one main thing. It's like, oh yes, you're supposed to be an accountant, you're supposed to be a teacher, but I had a whole bunch of things. So she kept saying, probably best to start your own business. And I kept saying, well, I'd love to do intuitive readings for a living. And this is funny because this happened before I met this woman at a funeral. But what I said to my coach was, I said, it's not like there's a psychic wanted, help wanted ad in a Boston Globe newspaper. So I said that before I ended up meeting the Boston Globe newspaper reporter, and she essentially put a help wanted ad out for me.
That
But
is fabulous.
yeah, isn't that funny? So I
That was
guess on
probably
some level,
hindsight too that you
I
remembered saying
know.
it, right?
Yeah, like it's like, okay, right place at the right time. But interestingly, after I'd been doing this work for about 7 years, my my mother's father, who lived in England, had been estranged from the family for quite a while, and he wrote to her they started corresponding, and it turned out that he was a spiritual healer and a psychic in England. And I didn't know
Wow.
that, my mother didn't know that. So again, it was one of those weird synchronicities that kind of made me feel like I was
Yeah.
on the right track. But
Yeah.
oddly, there really wasn't any direct family influence. I mean, we weren't particularly spiritual, we didn't go to church, my mother wasn't interested in this kind of stuff, nor my father. So somehow I guess I got the gene. I mean, I think we're all intuitive, but I obviously like athletic abilities or musical abilities. I think sometimes there is a little hereditary element of it that we are more inclined towards doing something like that. So I'm really grateful to, I mean, at 35 years, 7 books, being able to travel internationally with this, I feel so blessed. So I think the
Yeah.
universe is a friendly place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So what's the hardest challenge you've gone through, and how did you get through it?
Mm. Well, a couple things come to mind. One is I found out when I was in my late 20s that I couldn't have kids. And oh my gosh, that was just devastating. And it corresponded to I was engaged and my fiance broke up with me. And several days later, found out that I biologically couldn't have children. And I had to put all of my skill set into staying positive, staying hopeful, staying that this is somehow there's a divine plan. I'm going to walk my talk. I'm going to try to stay centered and hopeful and believing that the universe is a friendly place, that this is going to work out. But this is a strange story. When about 2 o'clock in the morning, one morning, shortly after this, I was just devastated. I mean, I can only maintain my positive attitude for so long. At 2 o'clock in the morning, it's a lot harder than 2 o'clock in the
Yeah,
afternoon. So I
always.
just remember praying and going, please, God, please show me that I'm going to have a family. I just want to have a family in some way. I don't know what is going to happen, but that's what I want. And 2 o'clock in the morning, right after that, the phone rang. I always get teary telling the story. And the phone rang. I pick it up, and this little girl, probably teenager, like says, "Hi, mom." I mean, I always get chills when I say this. And I said, all I could say, I said, "Honey, you have the wrong number." And I said, "Just hang up and call your mom. You got the wrong number." But I was like, okay, there was a sign. And a few years later, I ended up marrying a man who was divorced, who has a lovely 6-year-old son, and ended up being his stepmom, which has been the joy of my life. He's now 41. Oh my goodness. I don't know how that happened. I think my stepson's my age, so I'm not really sure how that happened.
Yeah.
But that was definitely one of those really challenging times. But also in 35 years of having a business, there's definitely been ups and downs, book contracts that didn't happen, when business slows down, just really trying to stay positive through those things. My main theory is that we are being guided, and these things happen for us, not to us, that there's something we may need to learn on a soul level. So I try to maintain that attitude.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
your story is fabulous. That phone call, I
Oh,
mean,
isn't that
that's
amazing? I still
yeah,
can't believe that happened. I
yeah,
still can't believe it.
those are the
I had
best stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had another one that happened to me when I was in my 20s before I started this business. I'm trying to think of how to say the story succinctly, but I had a job that I had taken, and the company ended up falling through. It went bankrupt. They ended up not paying me. I was virtually homeless. I was sleeping on a couch in a friend's apartment, and my car was falling apart. I was like all sorts of things going on that were just awful. And again, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like crying. Oh my God. I'm thinking of all the worst case scenarios. And it was one of the first times I really felt like I got a message from my spirit guides. And all I can think to describe it is I felt all of a sudden through the tears that I got a really warm embrace and just felt like I was just being guided by love. And I heard this voice, and it really felt like a voice, very different than just sort of your normal inner chatter. And the voice said, "There's abundance all around you. Ask for what you need." And I realized that I had been so focused on what I didn't want, that I didn't that I was afraid of, that I hadn't really focused on what I wanted. And that really, again, the universe is a friendly place, that it wanted to help me. And so I started thinking, well, instead of my car falling apart and being broken homeless, I want a job. I want a newer car that works. I want my own apartment. And I mean, I can't tell you what happened overnight. It didn't, but within the space of several months, I got a job. I was able to afford a car, and then I was able to afford an apartment. But I realized that was a big turning point for me, was recognizing just to keep my focus on what I want versus what I don't want. Yeah.
Yeah, that I love that one too, and it's like this Angela Manuel Davis, I was in my Dark Night of the Soul that I talk about in my
Mhm.
intro, and I was in her class spinning in the back row. It's pitch black. She's doing her thing, and I'm crying, and she did, "I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but someone needs to hear this," and I don't even remember what she said, but something in me shifted, and I knew I'd be okay.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
it's not like everything changed in that moment, but I knew I'd be okay.
Yep. Yeah. There's
And
sometimes I think a real healing energy that people can put out. It's not necessarily the words. It's just that hope, inspiration, energy that like sounded like it shifted you in that class. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, it's not like money rained down on me, like I was
Right.
having I think I everything looked good on the outside, and yet how am I gonna feed my kids?
Yeah.
Like, I had this thriving law practice and everything else, but the money wasn't like, I wasn't getting
Yeah.
paid anywhere, and I was like I had
Yeah.
employees, I had all this stuff, and I was like
Oh,
I was just so scared, and I couldn't tell anyone, and, like, I don't know. I wrote her the longest letter too. I'm
Wow.
like, "You probably don't even know me."
Oh,
And she grabbed me the
wow.
next time I came in, and I had classes in the Keck,
Mhm.
however you say that word, anyway,
Yeah.
and it's not like I was paying for them, and she grabbed me when I came in, and she said, "I know," and pulled me in an office and goes, "I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about."
Wow,
Yeah,
wow. But
yeah.
that's so helpful for people to know because I think, especially with social media being so prevalent, we all think that everybody's got this happy, successful life, happy marriage. Everything's great. And
Yeah.
look, I think there's probably not one of us who has not been through the dark night of the soul, however deep or not, that have had those
Oh,
setbacks,
yeah.
that have had those fears that whether it's money or cancer or find out your partner's unfaithful or something. It's like I
Everyone
think
goes through it.
we ever oh my gosh, we could probably spend another hour recounting those things for everybody. But I
Absolutely.
think that's one of the things I feel most grateful for. One is in getting older, recognizing that I've gone through those times and I've managed to thrive. But it's also just seeing that in my client. I mean, it's funny business in a way. It's not like a regular coach where you might be talking to people every week. It's like people call me maybe once or twice a year or once and I don't hear from them again for 10 years or something. But and so I often hear them when they're in that despairing place, run out of
Mhm.
money or whatever the issue is. And then I talk to them later and it's like, oh God, this is what turned out. This is, I just had the baby or I'm now in remission. Or so it's given me a lot of faith and hope that even in my own life, when those dark times happen, that things turn around. They don't usually stay that way.
Right, right. The
Yeah.
only way through is through. Like, you have to
Hmm.
go through it, and
Yeah.
yeah, produce this podcast is a result.
Yes. And thank you
Yeah,
for
so I get
this.
to help.
You're
Yeah,
giving
so
hope to lots of
and here
people
we are
here.
years later.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I love doing this, and that's a good segue into, do you have a message of hope you wanna give?
I think it really is that we're all in a transition and that the bad times don't last, that they do get better and that they can change and keep your focus on what you want, not what you don't want. I mean, that's what those guides said to me. And that's probably the thing that's held me through all of these dark times that I've gone through is that these dark times don't last. They don't last. You'll get through it. You have the strength and they're happening for you, not to you, that they're helping you become strong in maybe the weak places or the broken places, and that you'll also be able to help other people who are going through these dark times, like Lauren's doing. That her dark night of the soul has really opened up this energy to be able to help others. And we're all going through that right now. I mean, through one thing or another. I mean, COVID really decimated a lot of us emotionally and spiritually and financially. And so you might be here going through that just to lift other people up and find your own tools where you can be helpful to somebody else. So I always try to remind myself this is just something I'm going through right now. It's not going to be permanently the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite of your 7 books that you wrote?
I think it's probably divine intuition. Divine intuition. I love that book. This is the second edition of it. The first edition came out, gosh, I think it was 20 over 20 years ago. But that was really a divinely guided book. I actually had a dream that you're about writing that book and kept seeing the title of it. So it just felt like it was really one of those things that I felt very guided to write. And it what I tried to do in that book is to give people the stories and the techniques of how to get out of a stuck time, how to move towards happiness and success in their life. Because there's a lot of books about intuition and spirituality out there, which I've read and totally value. But I think a lot of people don't say, how do you do it? How do you implement this? What tools do you use? And so that seems to be one of my
Practical
gifts of
guide.
just,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Practical
talking.
ways to use your intuition.
Yeah.
Tap
So
in.
absolutely. So and then I've written a business book, which is called Put Your Intuition to Work. That's more about using this, it's called subtitled How to Supercharge Your Inner Wisdom to Think Fast and Make Great Decisions. So that was more business oriented. I'm finding that a lot of people in business are starting to use intuitives and certainly starting to use their own intuition more because things are changing so rapidly. Whether it's business or just our own personal lives, we can't just make decisions based on what's worked before. We're really having to use those intuitive skills to guide us forward. So I love working with people, helping them trust that inner wisdom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is great, and I've been talking a lot in the last few months on the podcast and not outside of here about the pause, about
Hmm.
taking that breath and taking
Yep.
those few minutes to
Yes.
tap in, and, I mean, answers emerge in the pause.
Right.
So, um,
Yeah. And
Do
it
you
doesn't have to be like half an hour of contemplating
no.
your navel,
Yeah.
as you're implying. It could just be, what's my guidance about this? What's my guidance saying? What's my right next step? And just 30 seconds. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to take a long period of time. Yeah.
I I love that. What's my next right step?
Yeah.
Just
That's one of my
keeping
favorite
it
questions.
simple. Yeah, right. I love that one too. Oh, this is so great. So we have
Yeah.
all the links for everything, Lynn, show notes on the website and everything else. You can reach her on Zoom. You could just have a reading with her on Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
know that's all of my readings are done by Zoom now, so it makes it very easy. I get to stay in my little home office here in Sarasota, Florida, and talk to people all over the world. So it's a miraculous thing right there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so great. Oh, this has been great. Thank you so much for being a
great.
guest today. I'm just
Okay, thanks.
really
Lovely
excited.
conversation. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me, Lauren. Okay, bye bye.